And joining us via Zoom, Mr. Benjamin Boache is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP. Gentlemen, what a pleasure. Good morning.
Morning.
It's been a while since we had you, Mr. Mercer.
It's been a while.
Yes, I don't think I've actually seen you since your appointment. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I believe that I've been here.
Perhaps on TV?
ICA,
Oh, yes, you're right.
GMPC
You're absolutely right. Yes,
acquisition
you are
of
right.
the.
That's
I came in studio.
Yes, I recall.
Yeah. So
Well,
I've
it's
been
good to
here.
see you again. And of course, Mr. Hossi has been really sparking conversation about the way through our perennial fuel issues. I listened to you on Newsfile, learned a lot. I don't think I'll ever see the Bost levy the same way again. Thanks again for making
Nothing personal.
we will also have Mr. Seth Tekba join us. Of course, he's the former finance minister, and these problems are not new. They are not new, so we'll be able to get that historical perspective. Also, he has various views on his idea of the way forward today. So we'll have Mr. Seth Tekba join us as well. Okay, now before we start breaking things down, those of you who have been calling and trying to get through to tell us what your thoughts are, let's open the phone lines shortly. Tell us how it's affecting you. What do you reckon ought to be the way through it? We'd love to hear your views. So call us 0302 216 541, or you could try 055 1111 997. Okay? Can't wait to hear your voice on the show. But look, while we're waiting for those calls to come through, we've got some tweets, haven't we?
Yes, we do. So Felix Nyami says we're still finding a way to create more space on the government payroll. We shall be back. I'm not sure if this is directly linked to the fuel prices. Kofi Bernard says commercial drivers are just suffering. You close from work every day and fuel prices go up. At the end of the day, all your sales go into fueling. And Ellie So says even those that shouted for more are crying. We all feel the heat no matter what. At Figo_Anani says, whenever there's an increase in fuel, my place, which is just 15 minutes drive from Edum, gets new lorry fare with a safao.
All right, 0302 216 541, 055 1111 997. Frederick is in Tema. Hi, Frederick. Good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
My brother, how are these prices affecting you?
Kojo, it's seriously affecting us. Seriously affecting us. I drive a 4x4. I used to fill my tank with 500 Ghana cedis. Today, even 700 Ghana cedis has not filled my tank.
Hey, what?
That's how
Wow.
serious it is. But
Now-
Kojo, yesterday was the boss man's birthday. Senor,
Oh, really?
yesterday was his birthday.
You are giving us some kokonsa there. Okay. Oh, that's
Yesterday was
fantastic.
his birthday.
Thank you for
Yesterday
that. Thank you. Belated happy birthday to you, Senor. Oh, you didn't tell us. I was on the phone with you yesterday. I couldn't smell the cake.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Kojo.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
All right, then. Let's go to Kumasi and talk to George. Hi, George. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How
Yes,
are
sir.
you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for calling.
Okay, this is the reality on the ground.
Uh-huh.
The economy is boiling. Businessmen are crying.
Oh.
Businesswomen are crying. Farmers are crying. Factory owners are crying. Shop owners are crying. Market women are crying. Workers are crying. Men and women are crying. Even children are crying. But them have no sympathy. So if them have no sympathy, we will show them we have liberty. If this government have no sympathy, we will let them know we have liberty. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Hey, and the Grammy goes to. All right, let's talk to Emmanuel in Kumasi. Hi, Emmanuel. Good morning. Hello, Emmanuel.
Kojo, how are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. We're very well today. How are you?
I'm fine. Before you start anything, I don't know if you had your first caller, but I just want to start by saying there is an elephant in the room, a very big one for that matter, and it's like we are burying our heads in the sand, so to speak. Our main problem in this country is corruption, and if we can tackle corruption head on, even from government, I believe you have people from government in your studio this morning. If we can tackle the issue of corruption head on, I tell you, this issue of not just fuel prices, but other things that we are suffering on your radio, sister radio station, they will come. First, we should talk about we are citizens, as leaders. What are we doing to tackle corruption? If that is done, I believe much can be done about this our fuel prices. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thanks for calling. Let's go back to Tema. Here's Claude. Hi, Claude. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for calling, bro.
Yeah, my issue is with the fuel prices.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you ask yourself, in other countries, do they have taxes on their fuel? And what are the taxes used for? I don't think we can take off all the taxes because, how many of Ghanaians pay tax? The other one is the issue about corruption. So we need to deal with corruption and deal with those who are not paying tax. Because when the taxes are put on petrol, let's say the sanitation levy, who makes the country dirty? Those people are not paying tax. They make the country dirty. Who should pay for it? So the levies, maybe we can look at it, but we cannot take up the levy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claude. And you've hit on something that will be the focus of our conversation. We're going to try and figure out, looking at the price build-up, whether there is anything at all that can be done. All right. Joanna is in Dansuman. Hi, Joanna. Good morning.
I'm good, Kujo. Good morning.
Good morning. So, how is it affecting you, these fuel price increases?
Kujo, it is not good at all. It is not good at all. President Nana Kufuor, I'm begging him, he should let things come down. As Otunfor said, if you are the top, your children will come and say that everything is all right. You should calm down and know that Ghanaians, their talking is too much. If his children are talking too much, won't he make them happy? You should calm down and let the system be soft. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you. All right, so you know the number 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. Tell us how the fuel price increases are affecting you. Frederick is in Obuasi. Hi, Frederick.
Yes, Kwayo.
My brother, what's the situation?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think right now the reality is on the ground for everybody to feel it. We don't want Mr. Jepamesa to come and play usual politics with this issue. Please. We have a government who doesn't want to sacrifice for his people, but he wants his people to sacrifice for him. They should change the way they are doing things now because, man, people are really suffering. That is all I will say.
Thank you, Frederick. Thank you. That's our second Frederick this morning. Dan is in Equiapim Tutu. Dan, good morning.
Yo, good morning, Kojo.
My brother, what's the situation?
Charlie, everything seems not to be happening. If I have powers, like I'll lift up Nanado and Bawomi and throw them away.
Oh, Ebe, my brother, no.
But I don't have the powers. You see, Kojo, I'm saying this because you, for instance, Kojo, we like the way you are working on radio. We trust you. See, let me even advise you that never ever join these politicians because you will spoil your image. So when we trust you, then all of a sudden you will come and be doing this kind of stuff. Today, Mahama is able to speak against Nanado government. Then that should tell you that the Nanado government has been poor. Because like Mahama shouldn't even get the chance and opportunity to even speak against Nana Addo government, thinking that his government was bad. Then we brought you, Dr. Bawumia. They are going to do this. They are going to do that. And he's standing on stage and mentioning a whole lot of things, thinking that these two people, when they put their heads together, Ghana, we are going to move forward. But I'm very much disappointed in them. Coming all the way from Ekwapim to Accra, in and out. Charlie, imagining. Some of us, we are talking with pain. See, they are already in opposition. They are already in opposition. No matter what they will do, they should continue to defend the bad things on radio. See, why is it that at Empire FM, they are not opening phone lines for us to fire over there? Because if you are listening, please order your people to open phone lines for at Empire FM for us to fire. They are always coming there to lie. Kojo, Charlie, God bless you.
Thank you, Dan. This is the new one about Empire FM. Is there a problem with the phone lines? Maybe we can ask and find out. Thanks, Dan, for calling. Ernest is in Ashaiman. Hi, Ernest. Good morning.
Hello, morning, Kojo.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you. Kojo, I don't use a car. I take these trustees to work.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Ashaima and works in Medina. Last year, I spent 9 cities in and out to work. Come back. As I speak with you, I spent 22 cities for the same distance. My salary hadn't been increased. And sometimes it's as if we are working for transport. And one of the things, Kwejo, I have observed in this country, which our leaders sometimes may not watch it, but it's affecting us, is that, look, food stamps. If a food stamp is supposed to be what's supposed to be cheap, so that even if we cannot drive the big cars and sleep in the big houses, at least we can eat. But look at the cost of food stamp, just because of the cost of transport. And another thing that I had added to it is that before a driver will move from Kintampo and bring food stamp to Tema, the police will take almost more than what the driver will get. And I'm telling you, we should watch some of these things. So the driver will charge you, including what he will give to the police. So food stamps definitely will go up. And these are some of the things we never check, but it's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernest. Wow, 9 cities to 22 cities in a year. That's 150% increase in the cost of transportation by Trotro. Wow. Kofi's in Kumasi. Hi, Kofi. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, my brother. How are you, Kofi?
Handsome Kojos.
Oh, handsome Kofi. Nice to hear you.
Yeah, this is your good friend, Kofi Bajumba. You see, I hope and I believe that Dr. Bawumia is awake this morning and is doing the listening to your program this morning. And I want Dr. Bawumia to answer this question. How are Ghanaians feeling now if he is awake? Look, are we enjoying or we are suffering? Dr. Bawumia, that is your question. You see, under John Mama, petroleum price per liter was 14 cedis. Just 14 cedis. Now, look at the price, over 30-something cedis, 30 cedis plus. And so, are we suffering or we are enjoying, Dr. Bawumia? You told us so and so is suffering, so and so is suffering, so and so. Now you are in power. And petroleum price 14 cedis to 30 cedis. Are we suffering or we are enjoying? Anyway, because you are handsome, I don't want to talk much. Thank you.
Thank you for calling, Kofi. All right, let's go to Kotobabi, where Kwame is standing by. Hi, Kwame. Good morning.
Yeah.
Hi.
Good morning, Kudo.
Good morning, Kwame. You're our last caller for now.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Kudo, I hope you listened to Honorable Trevor Zabonji. I think yesterday. He made a comment, and I think it's food for thought for all of us. That's where the conversation should start. They said they are not for the questions, politicians, so they know what they are up to. So we shouldn't bother ourselves, because this is the way things are going to go in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwame. Thanks for calling. Thanks to all of you for calling. I think that really sets up the situation on the ground. Gives us a good basis to start our conversation. Maybe with my guest in the studio, I'll extend the question. Oh, we're joined by Mr. Ben Boache. I can see him on Zoom now. Good to see you, Mr. Boache. Thanks for your time.
Good to see you, Pedro.
All right. So I think a good place to start is this. I mean, are we feeling what these callers are feeling? My guest in the studio, Mr. Mercer.
Absolutely.
You're feeling the pinch?
Without a doubt. Because we all buy petrol.
Do you?
Of course, I
You're
do.
Deputy Minister.
Yeah,
Don't you
the
get
fact
free
that
fuel?
I have some fuel allocation doesn't mean that is sufficient to fuel my family's running around as well. Because I have kids who go to school that I need to fuel my car to take them to school. My wife goes to work, she buys fuel. So yes, I go to the pump as well. And obviously listening to the sentiments that people are expressing on radio, on TV over the past couple of weeks, it cannot be in doubt at all that people are suffering. And even if you say that because I get some fuel allowance, I'm sure most employees, depending on the conditions of their employment, also get fuel allowance. But maybe before you got into their employment, you were buying fuel as well. And so you've had a previous experience with prices of petroleum products, and it impacts on people. And you have relations, you have friends who at all times feel the brunt as well. And so you get to speak to them and people tell you. And obviously, that in itself informed government action in the suspension that I'm sure we'll speak about with respect to the petroleum stabilization levies that has been suspended, or the president has indicated for same to be suspended. We are waiting some parliamentary action to put that into effect. Clearly, if government didn't feel that people were suffering, people were feeling the brunt of global increases in the price of petroleum, those actions would definitely not have been taken. So yes, we all, I believe, feel the situation on the ground. And I was looking at some data. Clearly, it is not only a Ghana problem. It is a global problem. And because the price of petroleum here in Ghana mimics what pertains at the global level, at any point that there is a movement, either upwards or downwards at the global level, then we down here, who essentially are net importers, get to feel the brunt of what is pertaining at the global level. Yes, so to answer your question directly, I and indeed government feels the pinch that the increases in the petroleum product is having on people's disposable income.
Okay, so you pointed out there's a global problem. Although some aspect of this problem is within our hands to solve. It's not all external factors beyond our control. There are things that go into the price of fuel that we have put there as a nation. And today's discussion, among other things, has to examine those things that we've put there.
I agree.
Should they all still be there? Are there some that, in the view of government, it's time we took them off?
Kuyo, you see, you need to look at what that component itself amounts to. Because the data that I have suggests that the total taxes and levies is only 16% of the price build-up. The margins that are also imposed on petroleum taxes, prices to fund specific items, adds up to make it 30%. Government has acted by removing...
Wait, so that's a total of taxes,
levies and margins,
30%.
30%. Government has acted by suspending, if you like, some of those taxes and levies. We may argue that that is not far-reaching enough, by all means. But then again, we ought not lose sight of the fact that these revenues are intended to fund specific expenditure items in the budget. including payment of salaries, construction of roads, schools, hospitals, what have you. And so the question is, how do you balance those revenue reductions with the expenditure that you necessarily have to make? And so you then have to make a choice whether those who are calling for a total removal, and that's what I heard the NDC people say, of all these taxes and levies, have suggested alternative revenue sources that then funds the expenditure. Or they are suggesting that Ghanaians, by asking for the removal and or reduction of these taxes and levies, ought to forego those developments that the people of Ghana also are asking governments to provide. So, yes, let the conversation begin. But I'm saying that government has responded. It has taken a first step because it feels the sentiments, the hardship that this global problem is having on Ghanaians. And so I believe that as the days go by, continuous monitoring of the market and how the price movement goes would yield some further relief. Indeed, between 2017 to date, government has spent in excess of 500 million intervention, direct, beyond the conversion of the ad valorem tax into a specific tax, that if that hadn't been done, those taxes and levies on the price stabilization would have been 83 pesos. Clearly, those are interventions that government has provided. And I'm saying that going forward, the market would dictate how government responds by either relieving or reducing some of these taxes. And I'm not in a position to confirm at this point. And so, yes, that's where we are.
All right. Now, you talk about the purpose of some of these things that have been added on to the price. And you talked about how we're using some of them to pay off our debts, we're using some to pay, did you mention wages, salaries? I'm wondering, these things were originally added for specific purposes. I mean, let's take the ESLA, for example. There was a reason why those taxes were put on there. Some of them even had sunset clauses, so they were supposed to serve a purpose and then be taken off. We've institutionalized them. So
the fact that the sunset has been extended doesn't mean that it's been institutionalized. Because as far as I'm concerned, there was an extension to the sunset through the previous budgets that were read, and the rationale was provided to justify why government action had to be what it was. I don't think that would amount to an institutionalization of those levies.
Right. How about the BOST levy, which, thanks to Mr. Hossi, we learned quite a bit about over the weekend.
You mean the BOST margin?
BOST margin, thank you, forgive me. The BOST margin. All right. Now, it was introduced at a time when BOST needed all the help it could get. Now BOST is a viable commercial entity making profit. Well, we can debate how much profit it's making another day, but it's making profit. Why do we still need to charge the people of Ghana a margin for BOST?
Well, I guess that the rationale for the BOST margin was to enable them build infrastructure, tanks, pipelines, and also to provide strategic stocks such that if in the event of emergency where the private sector is unable to meet the demands of the country, then BOST then steps in with that strategic stock to make up for the shortfall in the market, to avert queues at the pumps. I'm not so sure whether that function in itself has ceased to be relevant. And so to that extent, because I know that for the very long time, their infrastructure was left in a state of disrepair. New management at BOST has done extensive work in trying to bring some of them up. They have not concluded the works that they were doing. And so to that extent, the margins are still relevant. But of course, if we make the assessment and it is established as a matter of fact, beyond all reasonable doubt, that this margin has ceased to be relevant, it's outlived its usefulness, as well call is made for the scrapping of that margin. It is something that my minister would look at. As I speak, I haven't seen any data justifying why the bust margin ought to be scrapped. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to my good friend Senyo himself, who is a member of the advisory board of the Ministry of Energy, and so has the forum to make those representations if he feels strongly about it. And I can confirm to you that it is something that we'll look at positively and then proffer the appropriate recommendation for Cabinet to take action.
Okay, let's go around the room. Forgive me, I did spend quite a bit of time with you at the beginning because
Yeah, sure.
we're very pleased that you're here because of your,
Sure.
your portfolio. Mr. Hossey, another reason why I spent a bit of time with Mr. Mercer was I wanted to see whether the government itself had any views of areas where things can be done to bring down the price. And it seems the freeze that they've announced, that's as far as they are going at the moment. But is that as far as we can go?
No, thanks, could you, Mr. Honorable Mercer is one of the finest politicians you have, a very good-hearted man, and I was very happy to see him in the ministry. We work very well together. Unfortunately, I didn't hear I've actually made presentations on boss margin to the ministry in time past, but it's a very complicated matter because sometimes boss sees itself as a competition to BDCs and not necessarily an enabler, which rather it ought to be. So sometimes when it comes from me, but facts are facts. So, and I think the ministry know my approach to things. I don't support BDCs because they are BDCs and I represent them. As a member of the Ministry of Energy's advisory board, my responsibility is to the state. It is not necessarily to any particular economic grouping. So we'll still address the MPAs are aware of the loopholes there. But on pricing, what we need to do is something we've not done ever. Anytime there's a crisis, all governments, the current government, the previous government, will just start going around. What do we immediately do? But it has to do with planning to manage pricing. First of all, you need to define clearly where your place is in the pricing structure of petrol. I said the last time, Ghana is a price taker. It's not a price maker. Despite the fact that we are a net exporter of oil, of petroleum and petroleum products, just for the record, when you just say petroleum, you're actually referring to crude.
Yeah.
When you talk about petrol and diesel, you're talking about petroleum products.
Right.
That's the technical representation of it. But converting our products to crude, we're actually a net exporter. We expect about 70% more than we actually consume in the product equivalent. But we still can't be price makers in the world. We are just 133,000 thereabouts barrel a day. We're talking about billions of barrels that are produced globally. So our space is really small. So we can't do anything about it. But we can manage our risk on pricing. And governments, since deregulation, have only one place in pricing. That is the taxes and regulatory margins. It also has some role to play in the exchange rate. So what governments must always do is how do we optimize these three factors that we have as part of the options we have, to help manage the impact of petroleum prices on the global space. Right. Then outside of the pricing itself, government has an economic and social responsibility to also look at mechanism to address not the price itself, but the impact of the pump price on the entire citizenry. And I said, I've been saying this since 2013 in Labadi when the MPA had the deregulation review, and I've said it on air many times. We would only have limited options dealing with petroleum prices, but we'll have limitless options in dealing with the impact on our people. We have not taken that part seriously at all as a country. All the governments have failed. If we had invested heavily on our mass transportation, just as much as we invested in subsidies, in the inefficiencies in the power sector, we won't be sitting here having this conversation. My good friend who called and talked about his 4x4, will comfortably sit in a train. Mesa, Honorable Mesa here, goes to London and he sits in the tube. I do. Even Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Great Britain in World War II, was riding in the tube with the common folks. It's normal, it's okay, but we can't do it here. Every MD, every minister must drive a Land Cruiser, not even a Prado. So we need to invest right. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a dedicated lane running from Dodowa all the way to Accra, Kaswa all the way to Tema, one also passing through this Dansuma route, and we just have public transport running. The money we have spent and we continue to spend out of our petroleum pricing makes no sense amidst the inefficiencies in our mass transportation sector. So that is on the impact. But let me come back and narrow in on the pricing. So first, you deal with FX. If today the central bank decides that the FX we are going to make available, that we just dump in the general market, with a part going to fund imports that are not so critical, like Kotoje. It's one of our major imports, just in case you don't know. Kotoje.
Wow.
Importing chopsticks from China, all kinds of things. If we say we are rather going to prioritize petroleum products, that alone will save us about 26 pesos per liter. That's just 4% straight up. I made proposals together with the Association of Bankers some 6 years ago. We've been doing this every year, rehashing it with the central bank, for us to have an oil FX market that even if you do not want to even give Bank of Ghana FX, we create a very competitive space so that the BDCs, when they are procuring FX for their transaction, will get the best price which can be translated effectively to their customers. That saves us money. And when there are crises and there are times of speculation, government and the central bank can directly make FX available, which again is factored in the pricing in some forward structure for us to save money and save the impact on pricing on our people.
Forgive me, before we move off the FX, I know Mamavi has a question, but I just wanted to check. This was a very specific figure you gave, 26 pesos per liter to be saved just by, stopping spending foreign exchange on certain imports like Kotoje.
But Bank of Ghana's FX is 5.88 thereabout.
Right.
But what FX do you have on the market? You have what? 6.19. All right. And if I'm selling today, it takes me a while. I have to actually run a forward rate. I may end up doing 6.25. I mean,
how do you work it out, though?
The consumer will pay.
How do you work it out? I mean, first of all, how many of these imports did you identify? How were you able to work out that the total saving would be 26 pesos on the price?
You just look at the ex-refinery prices that you have on the market today and look at the base assumptions on FX that the BDCs are making, and look at the alternate option, which would have been central bank.
Right.
And it's a no-brainer. All right. But while we started developing this years ago, what we've actually had is the Bank of Ghana, carry on with the idea, but not for the oil sector, but for the general market. And even not but just for the banking sector. So, there are forward auctions now. But that concept of first being developed by the Association of Bankers and the petroleum sector. And I happen to be the managing director of the SPV setup to try and drive the solution, which we're doing with Refinitiv, then the Reuters platform. They're still doing it now, but just for the banking sector. That alone saves us money. That's one. Then you come and look at your taxes and regulatory margins. Take your time and realize that people are hustling. So what you want to make sure you do is have your taxes and regulatory measures be as efficient as possible. That efficiency is not necessarily there. There's room for us to review it together technically. What I've heard the NDC or NDC say that they should remove all the taxes, I mean, it's very unreasonable. It's totally moot. They won't do it if they're in government. But that's typical. All politicians say one thing when they are in opposition and do something different when they are in government. So when my brother Mesa was saying that, talking about the investments would have to be made, I remember the same arguments being made by Seth Tekwe.
Yeah.
So can we just look at what we've frozen, even though the freeze hasn't taken effect? If you look at the purpose, it's supposed to cushion us in these times.
No.
If you're able to freeze, why can't you just take it off completely?
No, so it can be taken off. Let's get that price stabilization recovery levy. Myself, I am the lead architect on the ESLA, which I am the one who led that, with great men like Frank Edu, Eddie Efa, Abiola, and co, and I mean Mrs. Abuya Bewa. We're the ones who drove that entire thing, because we're trying to solve a financial crisis. The price stabilization recovery levy was brought in, and that was a construct. There was nothing to stabilize. The essence of it was to actually raise revenue to fund government's continuing subsidy programs, mainly premix and residual fuel oil. All right.
So were we misled then?
When people took the stabilization, I was hoping that the recommendations on hedging, managing the risk, this was one of the options I was going to talk about. That fund would have been used to pay for the hedge. And today we may not be in the kind of crisis that we find ourselves. But this was the essence of that particular levy.
But Mama,
it has served a certain social purpose. And that's a decision as a country we need to take. So Tekwe started it, and the Mahama administration started at, I think, 10 pesos. Today we are paying 16 pesos. So I don't want politics over the PSRL. The only option in there has been, okay, when it's too hot and we can't collect this money so easily and want to reduce taxes, let's zero it out, let's reduce it, or something of that sort. But when we do this, we always come back and increase it. We started at 10, it went to 12, now it's 16 and 14. Both governments.
Mama V asked whether we were misled, because these things went through processes to be approved.
My brother,
we were told that they're going to be used for a particular purpose.
We don't read. It's as simple as that.
Right.
We don't read. The media is as guilty as myself. We all don't read. When the ESLA Act was being passed, I mean, it was done on our blind side, even though we had engineered it. All right, the numbers and the provisions that were on the side. It took some of my friends across the divide to call me for us to see it. I looked at it and understood it, but it was going to be too late. But it was clearly spelled out in there that the PSRL was supposed to be used for residual fuel oil and the premix subsidies. So nobody has misled anybody. If the description for you has been a bit misleading, then I'm sorry, but it is. I don't think there's any. If you read,
no, because I'm looking at the Energy Sector Levies Act,
yes,
and I'm looking at the purpose for the price stabilization and recovery.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the question if we've been, because if we're not using it to stabilize petroleum prices for consumers, to subsidize premix and residual fuel oil, and as buffer for under recoveries in the petroleum sector, then we're going off.
Like I said, the focus was always to fund premix and RFO.
And you're saying that was in writing.
It is. That's read it. But it's been put amidst other things. Those other things have not seen any part of day. Stabilizing it, what we should have done. And so I was going, if you allow me to possibly land on my three things. I was talking about FX. I was talking about the rationalization of our taxes and regulatory margins.
Yeah.
That one in itself may save us, subject to how we want to look at it. It could save us anything between 50 to 70 pesos. It depends on how we want to approach it. And that's a matter of policy. Mm. The other thing has to do with hedging in a deregulated market. no matter how much strategic stocks you keep anywhere, your stocks, when you release them, will have to be replaced. You pay the current price. So it's inconsequential. Somehow, the previous government was a bit locked into that idea, and they ended up creating a $624 million loss to the state, which we are now paying through boss margins and other things. The way to fix this, you don't trade, so you are not having fiscal deliveries. But the financial market has something called hedging, where you can hedge against cash settlements other than the delivery of products. I can go into a transaction with you, Kojo, that looking at my risk factors, I cannot manage risk beyond $60. And maybe you too, the reverse is same for you. So we can go into a contract that when it is hitting me, you are the one going to pay me. When it is hitting you, I'm the one going to pay you. But we actually pay an option to exercise that. That is what we could have used the price stabilization recovery levy for. So government would have been able to rake in hedge income. And in times like these, government will go and reduce its official taxes through parliament. So if I'm going to make 1 billion cedis from my hedge income, all I'll simply do is to now reduce my taxes such that it will be less by 1 billion, and consumers will have some reprieve. The alternate to that is that because we do a lot more on the export side of crude, we run a margin account where the windfall income there can be a trigger of adjustments that you have on the downstream side as far as petroleum taxes are concerned. Because whilst government is making a windfall, when prices move much higher than it estimated, consumers feel the stress on the downstream side because prices go up. So there can be a clearinghouse somehow, so that there can be some intervention both ways. You know, that's also an option that government can exercise. Today, with government's move to zero out the price stabilization recovery levy, it is waiving about 60 million cedis in tax revenue a month. So for the next 2 months, 120 million is gone. The premix or the subsidy program that you seem to have in the budget, and I hope I read that right, possibly around 247 million is what you targeted for. You actually need to optimize your subsidy program as well. There are a lot of leakages. There's no reason why we've kept RFO prices the same for what, about 10 years or 6 years. It makes no sense. The markets have moved. Users have not necessarily reduced their prices because you've kept that price stable and paying the subsidy from the general consumer. It's not a prudent way, in my opinion, to manage some of these. So there's room for us to rationalize and optimize our entire pricing structure.
I can't wait to hear government's take on the solutions and suggestions being offered. Mr. Ben Boakye of ASEP is on Zoom. Mr. Boakye, from your perspective, the solution is simple. There's a stabilization levy. Use it. It's almost 1 billion cedis. Use it to stabilize the price. Simple?
Yeah, I think it's one of the solutions available at this point. And that is also to test the integrity of the levy. I mean, Senor has made some assumptions about what the back end, intentions were. But we can pick the law and say that this is what you intended to do with the levy, and therefore let's make use of that. And from our estimation, the intervention was really to support subsidizing premix and also stabilizing prices at this crucial moment. And over the period, we have used about 50%, if you do the estimation year on year, to really subsidize the other products. So the question then is, what are you hoping to do with the outstanding balance? Because the law is clear on what that levy could be used for. And we estimate that at minimum, we should have about 948 million Ghana cedis outstanding in the account. So we have to make use of that money to cushion consumers at this critical moment. And that ensures that people can trust policy. And I mean, when these levies were being introduced back in 2015, those were the concerns. the credibility of government policy when they want to keep money for the hard times. All right. So if we want the consumer to believe that when price stabilization levy is taken, we can have that relief into the future, then this is the time to really test that. And we want government to, apply the fund to be able to smoothen the curve, at least for the consumer at this point. Beyond that also, we may need to take a hard look at some of the levies to see whether suspension at this point will be crucial. Because if we focus more on government revenue at the expense of the broader functioning of the economy, we may end up hurting the economy. And therefore, we need to see how we monitor the trend in prices to ensure that we are not unnecessarily burdening or heating up the economy because petroleum prices are going up, product prices keep escalating. So those are the interventions that are really, really required. The long-term issues, I mean, Senor had talked about them. How do you ensure that these price escalations are not regressive? Because in our context, I mean, we can sit and talk over Zoom. I could have done the same from home without even coming to the office. But for the average Ghanaian man or woman, they have to move. They have to go to the market. They have to go to work. And so they have no leeway around, they can navigate the price increases. And therefore, policy to ensure that people don't suffer when we have, prices escalating at this rate is really, really important into the future. And that is where, if you look at how much you are getting from upstream production, which could be in excess of 1 billion Ghana cedis, all because prices have gone up, then you could say, how do I intervene in downstream to ensure that the economy also runs? And these are the balancing acts that you expect government to actually do at this point to bring relief to the consumer.
You talk about testing the integrity of the policy and all that, but I mean, you're an industry player, you're an industry watcher. You've been there from the very beginning. You know what happens to the monies raised through these taxes and levies and margins. Mr. Mensah himself has, explained to us here that these things are used to pay bills. So are you not setting government up for failure when you say, go and bring the money that you've been collecting for this stabilization, when you know perfectly well that it's not likely that they've just been collecting the money and putting it in a bank account?
Yes, I think that is what we need to know at this point, because that's what the law says. And the law is clear on that. It says the minister shall cause to be opened and maintained an account to be known as the Price Stabilization and Recovery Account for the purpose of receiving money realized from the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy. And it stipulates, and everything in there is shall. And I know my good friend, Honorable Mensah, is a lawyer. And when the law says shall, you cannot deviate from it at will. And I haven't seen Parliament approve for any other use of the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy. And therefore, the money should be there for us to be able to cushion the consumer at this point, unless we are being told that it has been misapplied, which also raises another fundamental question about the intention around some of these levies when we impose them.
Well, we'll get Mr. Mensah's response to that shortly. I don't know if we have Mr. Tekpe on the line yet, we don't have Mr. Tekpe. But this is something I would like to get both of your responses to before I come to Mr. Mensah to deal with all you've said. This issue of removing the margins, the ones that are no longer, in your estimation, that are no longer serving the purpose for which they were created. The fact is that these are sources of revenue. Our revenue collection in this country has been a problem for many, many years. These are some of the few guaranteed sources of revenue, without which, as a nation, there's not enough coming in. What's the alternative? If you remove these margins, some of which we are starting to see are life-saving margins for government's, collection of revenue. If you remove them, what's the alternative? I'll start with you, Mr. Boakye, then I'll hear from Mr. Hosea on that same question before Mr. Mensah deals with your issues. Mr. Boakye.
Yes, I mean, this is where the policy thinking becomes really relevant. You may not want to remove them entirely, but you want to be able to smoothen the curve, right, for the consumer. So if you want, for example, put the price at $80 per barrel, what do you do to ensure that tomorrow we keep the price? That could start with kicking, first of all, the boss levy out. If it keeps increasing, you target, the low-hanging ones, until you can be able to optimize the levies. And like we're saying, it's government revenue. Money is fungible, right? You're going to have a windfall of about 1 billion Ghana cedis upstream. How do you ensure that you translate that into ensuring that the economy runs through downstream activity, all right? So you could then measure how much you can suspend downstream to ensure that your economy runs and you can pass on some benefits to the consumer. So we could look at all the levies and plan when each kicks in to ensure that we're able to stabilize the entire economy.
Right. Let's see if we can get a quick comment from Mr. Hossi on this before we move to Mr. Mercer. Yeah, what's the alternative? You remove bust margin, for example, and where else does government go for this money?
Well, I think I rather want to walk us through the taxes, and then we can look at how we can optimize it and what the options. Maybe. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I think you had that on the screen the last time. I think I shared a slide with you. If you have it, it would be good to put it up. One, we need to understand where petroleum sits within the entire fiscal space. The petroleum taxes minus the regulatory margins account for about 6.2 billion thereabout in revenue for government. In total, about 11% thereabout in government's total revenue.
11% of our total revenue is from petroleum taxes.
Yeah, of our tax revenue as a country. Oh, you want to look? Yes, that's what it is. So it is. It's not very simple to just put and wish it away. Government hasn't got a very efficient tax collection system. It is now trying to turn things around. I'll commend the GRA for what they are doing under the leadership of the current chairman and also the CEO. But there's a lot of room. So I'd rather walk us through our taxes. The Energy Debt and Recovery Levy is something you can't touch. The NDC can't touch if they are in government today. The NPP itself has lost control over it because it's been pledged through the ESLA PLC, the ESLA bonds, the energy bonds, depends on how you want to call it. That is committed. It's one of the things securitized to actually have the ESLA app. Then you have the road fund. The only problem I have with the road fund, also taking note that I used to be a member of the GHA board, is the inefficiency with which we have actually managed the fund. I wouldn't be saying that the fund should go down. But when a fund like this is up, I don't think there's strong sense for anybody to be paying tolls anywhere in this country. I don't think you find road funds on prices and at the same time ask people to pay to maintain the roads. I think it's a double dip there. And the road fund here is big. It used to be very small. And then through the ESLA, there was a big push. The Energy Fund levy is actually supposed to fund the Energy Commission. It does a lot of research work. If that's the revenue generating model, that's fine. But it may also, it's just a password though. It's not very significant, so I don't like to spend too much energy on it. The Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy has been used to fund premix and RFO subsidy. We have not used the PSRL for any any stabilization program ever. The only thing any government would do is say, I'm taking out the stabilization, I'm not going to tax you. But that is not how you stabilize prices. By saying, okay, I'm suspending something that possibly shouldn't even be there in the first place. So if you are charging it, what you should have been using that money for is to embark on price risk mitigation mechanisms that will help insulate consumers when prices go up and down. But we haven't done that. All we'll do is that we'll say, yeah, charging will be. That is how it is just applied.
So you agree with Bembuache when he says that, well, in that case, we've broken the law?
No, we've not broken the law. The law has not been broken at all. You should read the ESLA Act. MOF has been on point on that one. I think there was a time some money was moved out wrongly for BOST under the previous regime, and they demanded the money back. So no, I don't think that. I don't
with the
think there's
stabilization.
So there are a number of things. It's like you have children. They give you a salary to feed. Your children. If you decide to feed two and not feed the other one because you feel it's not, you don't think it's necessary, it doesn't mean you're not feeding your children. You understand? You may not be feeding all your children, but it doesn't mean you're not feeding your children. It has three purposes that she read: stabilization, buffer for under recoveries, and there's another one.
Subsidized premix.
The subsidized premix and IFO. The focus has been there. Maybe a part of it, when you subsidize premises and all that, it's also into the same as buffer for under recoveries, unless they are looking at other under recoveries.
Right.
All right. So, or trying to bring some part of that money back into the ESLA is an option. But the stabilization one, there's no program. You can't run that program meaningfully without where I sit. We haven't had that conversation. I've made this proposal, even in our industry reports, over the years. Nobody seems too interested.
Right.
Yet. So that one has not been done. You take a primary distribution margin. It's a transportation margin. It's actually now 10 pesos. All right. This, I think, is an older one. So this is actually 10 pesos. Then you have UPPF, also a transportation margin, something to fund and make sure we have prices the same across the country. That costs us as a country now at the current rate close to 2 billion cedis a year. I am very clear in my head that our transportation cost, because we fix a particular rate, is highly overpriced. Because every year and every government changes, you have a new set of transporters and a new set of transportation brokers who shave off some 20 or 30% of the real transporters thing. So the transporter himself doesn't get access to the contracts. Others will take the contracts and subcontract to them, and they shave off. Why should we be paying that extra premium? If you take that one out, you actually save maybe some 9 or so pesos in cost. All you can do today, whether you're NDC man or you're NPP man, if it's transportation, let's auction it. For every kilometer, this is the, come and give us the auction for this quarter. You will see how the NDC transporters will start getting jobs because their price will be way lower. Because for them to get business today, they have to get somebody in. When it's NPP, the reverse is true. This is the thing that's happening on the transportation side. Consumers end up paying a premium for it. Let's be honest about it. We have actually published this already in the industry report before. And I don't have a problem sharing it publicly again. Where I sit, we all get these complaints coming from all transporters. You have to find a way to be aligned. If you are not aligned, you are standing on the fence, you struggle. Very few of them stand on the fence and manage because they manage things both ways. Take out the politics out of transportation, you actually save possibly some 25% at a minimum. BOST itself did export during a Wadako's time, and their prices were about that same difference, lower than what they were actually paying transportation in Ghana when they were exporting by road.
You estimate a saving of about 25% of the price.
Auction it today. There are a lot of people who have parked their trucks in yards. They can't get jobs. They can't get jobs. Ghana is a highly overtracked country. So your prices would only face south if it is market driven. We don't have that situation. Mesa is right. Where I said we should be having these conversations. We've still not made time to have these conversations. But I can help government, and it's my responsibility actually, because I'm a member of the Ministry of Energy's Advisory Board. All right, to do that. So we'll have the conversation in more detailed fashion. But we need to educate the public nonetheless. Then we have the fuel market margin, which has gone up to 5. There's room there, but it's not material. So I wouldn't spend time. The BOST one is clear, inefficient. The tank farms that we were alluding to were actually built by the state. We put up the BOST margin for 2 reasons: maintenance and expansion of the network. And we did that at the time because BOST was not a commercial entity. The commercial petroleum entity was TOR. So if TOR was producing, BOST was supposed to keep strategic stocks. If I'm not running an operation, how do I make income to maintain the facilities that you have given me? There was every wisdom at the time to make sure there's a boss margin. The boss margin is not for strategic stocks. There used to be a strategic stock levy. We zeroed it because government took a decision that when it needs, it will buy it itself and give it to boss to manage. But it needed to go to maintain its facilities, so that was legitimate. Fast forward today. Fast forward 2013, 2014, or 2015. Boss transitioned. It's now trading. It is offering its facilities commercially to the public. The zonalization policy gives it monopoly in the northern sector. Clearly, they just have to stop a bit of this cross-zonalization things that sometimes happen. But it happens because of inefficiencies again at Bust. But you have the monopoly. It charges higher than the private people. So your expansion of your facilities will have to come from capex funding, which can only be justified by your revenue. When, as a private man, I'm investing in a depot today, that $12 will be the basis upon which I will pay for the facilities, maintain them, and make a profit. It can't be different for Bust. But what we have done is actually to create an inefficient system. The number of workers at Bust today are more than three times or so that they need. And everybody knows it, but we won't say it. You get it? The seepages and leakages are there. But I must admit, Edwin Provincial, he's done a great job. Because people have still had this carry or this icing and still have not been able to make meaning of the place. He has done a good job. But it's time for us to turn it into an efficient vehicle and a limited liability. It is a limited liability. So there's room there's room for things to be fixed. At that side. The other parts that we often don't talk about is the marketers and dealers margins, which is where the oil marketing people and some of them also owned by BDCs and all that come in. There's a lot of inefficiency there. But that inefficiency is also driven by our current licensing regime. If to run a given station, you actually need, say, 50,000 liters a month to break even. And today, you have, everybody wakes up is building a station. Everywhere, there's one. Everybody. We license people without proper standards. The efficiency that you have in a given station will drop. So when it moves to 20,000 liters, what will happen is that, as a group, everybody will increase the cost of running a station. And who pays for it? The same consumer. So the regulator has a role to play in trying to rationalize our licensing regime. And I think our current regulator, Honorable Hamid Mustafa, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, has really given the signal to fix this particular sector. But it has to be done. Otherwise, we have too many village champions who rather drive a lot more illegal trades. And the inefficiencies will lead to an increased cost, then translated again to consumers.
We're going to 9?
You said?
I said we're going to 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, obviously we need to get the response of government. I'm keen, and that's the reason why I held Mr. Mercer's response till last, because I want to know which of all these proposals government can actually consider. And we'll hear from him when we come back from these messages.
No victim of gender-based violence should be silent. Every human deserves dignity and respect. If your health, dignity, and security is undermined, you must seek assistance. Call the Orange Support Center for assistance on toll-free number 0800 111 222. This message is by the kind courtesy of the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA.
Money is back in Ghana with a whole new world of entertainment tailored for you. We have some amazing products with unbeatable prices for 4K Android OLED, 4K Android UHD, and Smart FHD television that comes with cognitive intelligent TV and ultra clear sound also. Enjoy the amazing one-box music and chic sound from Chic Series. Experience these amazing prices at the following shops: Electromat, CompuGhana, Melcom, Shri, Krishna, Palace, Indus, Prime 8, City Shop. TNCs apply.
A few months ago, my son was an average student struggling to pass his school exams, and this made us very sad until we discovered the ULesson app. The interactive learning videos helped him understand difficult subjects, and now his grades have improved. He won the mathematics competition this term. I'm so proud of him, thanks to ULesson.
Build a solid foundation for kids in primary and secondary school. Download the ULesson app now on the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Also available on web at ulesson.com.
We know you better than they do. We cushioned you in the heat of the COVID pandemic when you needed us most. It is now time to help you take care of your post-COVID needs. From June to December 2021, your biggest and largest bank, GCB, is cushioning salaried customers with a special personal loan package. Access up to 200,000 Ghana cedis at a slashed interest rate. Enjoy a 2-month repayment holiday. Take up to 5 years to repay. Top up your existing loan at absolutely no fee. Let us make life comfortable for you. Apply for the GCB personal loan today and take care of your urgent needs. Remember, terms and conditions apply. GCB, your bank for life.
Center of the world and home to the headquarters of the AFCFTA. Abundant resources and limitless opportunities for business and investment. A great story of growth and attractive returns in a fast transforming country. Be part of this great opportunity and optimism. Invest in Ghana. Make it happen with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC. Connect, let's talk, and guide you through numerous incentive packages for investment. We are open and ready for partnerships to grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana. Locate us at Vivo Place Cantonment Accra or call us 0302-665-12529. Online at www.gipc.gov.gh and on all social media platforms at GIPC Ghana. Drop us a mail, info@gipc.gov.gh. GIPC, your first port of call for investing in Ghana.
Charlie, so it's actually raining and we can't hear any sound. As for this, your house, when it's raining, no sound. When the sun is up, the interior is cool. What roof are you using?
They use ICO roofing shingles from Interface Limited. Long lasting and beautiful.
ICO roofing shingles. We all for move to Interface and get this ICO roofing shingles.
Interface Limited is the leading supplier and installer of finishing input materials for the building and construction industry in Ghana. Call us on 0274-999999 or visit our website at
www.interfacelimited.net. Facebook, Interface Limited GH. Instagram, interface.limited.
Listen up.
Okay.
I like to show off my unique style and accessories. You may have met me before. I'm not a person, I am a place.
Not a person.
What about you? Can you answer this? Stay tuned. Something big is coming.
What would you do if you have the choice to do anything in life? Build your dream house, take very good care of your family, and plan for a comfortable retirement. Plan a befitting funeral for your loved ones when they depart. How would you live if you knew there was a friend waiting to support you on all of your life's choices?
You have such a friend in Glyco Life Insurance. Glyco Life has all the plans to meet your life's needs. Your child's education, your life savings, your mortgage, funerals, redundancy, and your retirement, and takes the burden off your shoulders. So go ahead and live life to the fullest today with Glyco Life Insurance plans. And remember that all our policies are hedged against inflation. Talk to Glyco Life on 0302 218 500 or 246 142. Also visit our website at www.glycolife.com or any of our branches nationwide for more information.
Glycolife, we cushion you for life.
Glyco, we cushion you for life.
Putting up or replacing a roof is not just laying the panels, it's a complete engineered system. And at Roofings and Steel Ghana Limited, we understand how the whole system works and are resolved to give you the very best quality in roofing and steel products. Manufactured locally in Ghana, we offer a range of steel and galvanized pipes, mild steel plates, and all ranges of roofing sheets, IBR and IDT, corrugated and galvanized. Our locally manufactured products are tropicalized to withstand local conditions. Distributors, wholesalers, contractors, builders, welders, and fabricators. It's time to get the best quality roofing and steel products made in Ghana. Visit our office at Chopoli on the Tema Aflawo Road. Call us on 0559 722 035 or 0552 571 173 or 0242 539 411. Roofings and Steel Ghana Limited. Your strength in steel.
No victim of gender-based violence should be silent. Every human deserves dignity and respect. If your health, dignity, and security is undermined, you must seek assistance. Call the Orange Support Center for assistance on toll-free number 0800 111 222. This message is by the kind courtesy of the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA.
Dear Ghana, for 29 years, you've trusted Polytank with preserving what matters most, that is water. For 29 years, you've grown with us and allowed us to give you more durable, affordable, and top quality products for every stage of life. And now, we say, Ghana, yet Damwasi, we are still #1 because of you. So, for every purchase you make this October, you can win special brand souvenirs from us. Happy Customer Service Month. Remember, terms and conditions apply. Polytank, trusted by generations.
Book your unforgettable autumn holiday with Qatar Airways, the airline of the year 2021. Benefit from special savings of up to 30%, exclusive Privilege Club rewards, guaranteed flexibility, and a reliable expanding network of over 140 destinations. Book today at QatarAirways.com. Terms and conditions apply. Qatar Airways, the airline you can rely on.
Say donut, 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 donut. Hey, donut, 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 donut. Donut, donut. Then come cut up donut, donut, donut. Malaria syrup donut. Everybody follow not sa malaria. A 3D till no not now. Oh, malaria chill. Oh, ho, po. What do you do? I want you. No, not. Lonat scatter malaria. Lonat ide scatter malaria.
A quality product from Blaze GVS Pharma. Yenshishemu hu se malaria wa umujim ansana wanum Lonat. Na nam yensearch na malaria no daso wo hwa ko hu dokota.
This advert is FDA approved.
He's up bright and early, serving your premium morning radio show. The Morning Man. It's the Morning Man, Kojo Jackson.
Fox Speed, roll it.
Welcome back. It's the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. We're talking about fuel. We're trying to figure it out together. What could possibly be done to bring down the price of petroleum products? And we'll be dealing with that shortly. Our guest, of course, Ben Boachi from ASEP, Senior Hossi from Seaboard, and the Deputy Minister of Energy, Mr. Andrew Ejapa, Mr. Honorable Member of Parliament for 2nd D. More on that shortly. But have you heard about the Orange Support Center? The Orange Support Center provides support to survivors of SGBV, sexual and gender-based violence, including psychosocial support, legal support, and medical services where necessary. Please call the Orange Support Center on 0800 111 222. Remember, it's a toll-free number, free to all networks, okay? So if you're suffering from a difficult marital separation, for example, you need support, call them on 0800 111 222. Or perhaps you've been suffering in an abusive relationship. Call the Orange Support Center 0800 111 222. They'll provide a range of services, including legal support, to help you get the needed support to prevent child neglect. If you notice gender-based violence anywhere, call the Orange Support Center 0800 111 222. They can intervene. If you see something, please say something. You might be the one who saves a life. Good news for victims of sexual and gender-based violence. UNFPA Ghana and the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection have established the Orange Support Center. Call them 0800 111 222. Also, please note that the number comes with no charge. It's a toll-free number, and they'll give you all kinds of services, including psychosocial support, legal support, and medical support where necessary. Call them now, get the assistance you need. It's 0800 111 222.
It has come to the notice of the management of Ecobank Ghana PLC that some unscrupulous persons are posing as employees of the bank and fraudulently soliciting the payment of facilitation and application fees for loans. Management wishes to inform all customers that the general public that Ecobank Ghana PLC will not ask individuals, groups, or organizations to make upfront payments of any amount of money when applying for loans. All loan applications must go through our dedicated relationship managers at any of the 67 branches or the appropriate business desk at the head office of Ecobank Ghana PLC. The public is also reminded that the Ecobank Ghana PLC will never ask anyone to deposit money into any account for the delivery of services. Please be cautious not to fall prey to such fraudulent schemes. Kindly note that all customer communications from Ecobank Ghana PLC are done through this number 0302 610 400 or no reply at ecobank.com by email. For inquiries, please call Ecobank Ghana PLC toll free on 0800 00 3225 or email ecobankenquiries@ecobank.com. Also connect with Ecobank Ghana PLC on all official social media handles for further assistance.
All right. Now, thanks for all your text messages. They are sponsored on this show by Glyco, Critical Illness Plan, GSIP is in your best interest to survive, and Fabri Metal, your partner in steel.
Let me tell you a bit about Fabri Metal and their FAB 500 steel rods. They are manufactured locally by Fabri Metal Ghana Limited using international quality standards. As winners of the 2021 Steel Manufacturing Company of the Year in Excellence in Corporate Social Responsibility, we pride ourselves as the industry leader in steel, providing the local market with import substitute at affordable prices. Call Fabri Metal on 0552 698 192 or 0249 896103 and locate them at Chopoli on the Tema Flower Road. Fabri Metal, your partner in steel.
Okay. So you don't have to queue to watch a movie these days. You just have it streamed onto your screen in your living room. You don't have to go to the mall these days. You can shop online and have it delivered to your doorstep. Now, what if you could do the same with your banking? Meet Abby, your 24/7 digital banking service from ABSA. So whether it's making inquiries, paying a friend, buying airtime, checking a balance, just ask Abby to do it for you. Add Abby on WhatsApp. The number is 050 164 4644. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA. Terms and conditions apply. Go to absa.com.gh. All right, let's get back to our conversation. And of course, Ben Boache has been with us on Zoom. In the studio, we have Senyo Hossi and Mr. Andrew Ejapa Mercer. Right, now, I've deliberately saved Mr. Mercer, the Deputy Minister, for last so that he can give his responses and reactions to all the suggestions that our other guests have given. But during the break, Senyo, you were making a certain point. I'd like us to hear that just before Mr. Mercer.
Yeah, so I was saying that we have about 11 taxes and regulatory margins. I just touched on about 9. The other one is the sanitation levy.
That's right.
Why we don't run a polluter pay system, and anytime we want to tax anything, we just dump it on petrol. It keeps me baffled. We can't keep doing this. Some of it will be unsustainable. We also need to realize that we are experiencing an energy transition. Our fuels are driven by transportation. The moment Europe stops producing more of our fossil fuel cars, our cars in Africa will change unless we start building our own factories. Where are you going to get money to continue managing things like this? Government has to think about it. You look at the energy sector recovery levy. It also comes from an inefficiency in the power sector. So power sector mistakes that politicians drive now come to petrol for the consumers to pay. Are we taking steps to even avoid the recurrence of this? You look at the energy debt and recovery levy and go in there. Monies that have been used in there are not necessarily some of the things that were originally intended. We are paying losses that people are making on the corporate side, not government's obligations to those people as in debt it owes the institutions. Somebody runs a trading loss recklessly, then you're actually spending money to rather pay for that inefficiency. These are things that should get us thinking. And sooner than later, this excessive, addiction to the petroleum price structure to just raise revenue every time will fizzle out. When electric cars start dominating this market, because we don't produce our own cars, Kojo will smell the new smell and taste of coffee.
So how many of the taxes in some should be removed?
I won't say removed. A lot of it needs to be rationalized. BOST will have to go. The PDM would have to rationalize.
What is it rationalize? Freeze?
Not freeze. If you want to still manage the transportation, we have to optimize it. So it will have to reduce. Is there any waste in there? There is waste. We take it out. You take the energy debt recovery levy, is committed. We can't do much about it. The energy sector recovery levy, at a minimum, if you're not even reducing that, there should be clear, strong policy managed by everybody to make sure we don't have recurring problems. We are charging petrol for the crimes of electricity. You take the sanitation. I would have taken sanitation out. But to do that, it means you have to come with an efficient system to make sure polluters pay. If government is unwilling or unable to, this is the easier route for government.
Right.
The SPT, the jury is on that, but the SPT's contribution to the general tax revenue of the country is extremely significant. Wishing it away will be almost impractical or impossible in sustaining the fiscal space. I'll encourage Ghanaians to be patient about that. But what we need to do, once we are collecting the price stabilization and recovery levy, and there is supposed to be a surplus in that one, we should start taking steps to hedge. So I'll summarize the three things that I raised. One, let's go back and fix the FX. Optimize FX, dollar, the provision of dollar to the oil sector, so that the cheap dollar coming from Bank of Ghana does not go into the general market, but can go here and can help minimize the impact on everybody. There is a solution in there. The Association of Bankers and the Chamber have something. Two, rationalize all the taxes and margins. It's not difficult. Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy, bring in the key sector players, and we'll review it together, come up with mechanisms to optimize it. If we're able to take out rent seeking, take out any special interest out of the structure, we can get that done. The third thing, let's start a hedging mechanism. The ministry has never had a successful one because the ministry players don't run business. So get the commercial guys, join them, and let's come up with a mechanism to make sure we don't come back into this conversation going forward. Right. The last one is make the right investments in the mass transportation sector to minimize the impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mercer, a lot to digest here, but I guess the simple question is, which of these recommendations from our other panelists can government actually implement?
Well, could you constructive suggestions by all means, as opposed to the rhetoric that our friends in the NDC put out yesterday, without proffering any alternatives, but just going out there and putting out statements to the effect that government should scrap all taxes and levies from petroleum products to reduce the burden on the Ghanaian consumer. Listening to CSOs and stakeholders in the industry, particularly Senior and of course my good friend Ben, you can see that the reality is that there's only as much that government can do, because some of these determinants of the pricing at the pump is really out of the hands of government. But yes, Senior has identified some key areas and has made suggestions to what it is that can be done to review and rationalize some of them. We are open for these kinds of conversations because it only can go to enrich the discourse and bring some efficiency that then translates to benefits to the consumer. Like we are doing with the PURC in the electricity pricing space. where we are going through a comprehensive review of the pricing mechanism.
Is that to say that beyond the freezing, you are thinking about more ways to cushion the consumers?
Absolutely. Otherwise, then your purpose as a government becomes irrelevant. Because these are clear suggestions, constructive options that can obviously be looked at in detail to see what it is that can be done to bring the efficiency, because the efficiency would translate to reduction in prices for the consumer. And so I, like I said, I welcome such constructive dialogue.
So government will consider, for instance,
absolutely. Without,
removing the bust margin.
Well, there has to be.
Effort is the first thing we should be doing.
Yes, and of course, I speaking from where I sit, I know that my minister is open for conversations like this. We've listened to particularly electricity consumers and are working with the PURC, for instance, to remove the band system and make it a uniform pricing, just so that industrial consumers who get punished for consuming more electricity,
and they are the ones generating the jobs.
and they are the ones who are generating the job.
I had a question on the...
so we are working on that. So I'm saying that in the same vein, of course, we've reviewed some margins, recommended to government. Some margins were reviewed. Some fresh ideas are coming on board. Like I said, Senior himself is a member of the advisory board of the ministry, and our duty is to reflect some of these suggestions that come on and make appropriate recommendations to cabinet for approval. And these are useful suggestions. These are constructive inputs that I think that government of necessity ought to look into, working with the Ministry of Finance and the NPA, who are the regulators, to ensure that the needed reform, which is a necessary ingredient in any governance system that is responsive to the needs of the people, to take on board and work with to ensure that the benefits that would accrue accrues to the people of Ghana.
You know, when we proudly say we're a net exporter, what do we do with the money that we make from that? Just real quick, is this also an area where we can use the profit to cushion consumers in these times?
You see, we need to look at the budget and the estimated price that was used in preparing the budget and the revenue that government expects to rake in from export of oil. If there's a windfall, then those considerations as regards what those windfall can be used for can then begin to play in the conversation. But as we sit here, I do not have the figures offhand to determine whether we budgeted for, say, $70 or $80 per barrel and we're having 76 or 80 windfall. But obviously, like I've kept saying, every revenue item, every revenue line has a commensurate expenditure item in the budget. And so if you forgo the budget, the revenue, then you ought of necessity ought to forgo the expenditure as well. And the question is, would that be acceptable? And I think that in some comment that I made, you took me completely out of context to suggest that the taxes and levies and margins are used to pay salaries, for instance. But of course, that is not the intent of what I meant. The thing is this, that there are taxes that goes to the consolidated fund that then is used for payment of recurrent expenditure and also to fund specific budget line items. And there are specific taxes and margins that go for a specific purpose. Those, the law is mandatory. You cannot use it for any other purpose. And so those go into the funds that they are meant to fund. And for those, I do not have any basis to suggest that those funds have been diverted by the Ministry of Finance for any other purpose.
All right, fair enough. Just a quick clarification. Price stabilization levy, is that money actually there? And how much is it?
I do not have the figures off the top of my hand, but you see, if you look in the Energy Sector Recovery Levy Act, there is a reporting mechanism that the Ministry of Finance annually submits a report to Parliament for the review of Parliament. All those figures are there. The accounting is
Yes.
indicated in those reports that are submitted
So
to
the
Parliament.
money is there.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
would you consider just using it to stabilize the price?
Well, my information is that that is exactly what government has been doing over the past couple of years. And indeed, if you recall, earlier I mentioned the figure of 500, in excess of 500 million that government has directly intervened in ensuring that the prices of fuel is maintained at a certain level with these funds.
Okay. Finally, when will we know the outcome of this review that you suggest?
Well, I cannot give you a definitive date and time as I sit here because, like I said, these are issues that have come up. I need to relay these sentiments, these suggestions to my minister, and then would commence the process of the review. And like I said, this is something that we take very seriously, and you can rest assured that we'll work on it to ensure that the relief that the good people of Ghana rightly deserve is provided as appropriate.
Mr. Mensah, I want to thank you for your time. I want to say a big thank you to Senor Jose and, of course, Ben Boachi, who joined us via Zoom. Thanks to all of you for listening. It's actually 10 o'clock. Can you believe it? Thanks for joining us. We're back tomorrow with more on the Super Morning Show. Here's Hannah Odame with the headlines.
Coming up, some residents of Cape Coast in the central region unhappy with President Akufo-Addo after he denied promising to construct a harbour there. Former President John Dramani Mahama tasked the youth to ensure their future to an NDC government. We'll tell you why. And Energy Ministry rejects